It comes into Garcia, back to Taylor. Taylor falls down at midcourt, and that'll do it. You can put Spurs on another Gamecock win on the road. There's a pileup on the court, 2 Aggies and a Gamecock on the court. It is Talon Cooper holding his right knee and shin as he got run into by Anderson Garcia and Wade Taylor. The Gamecocks win at 70-68. Now let's make sure Talon Cooper is okay. He is helped to his feet by his teammates, and he will limp back into the handshake line.
Derek Scott on the call last night. Interesting radio finale to how things went down after another thriller for South Carolina on the road. They win it, as you heard, 70-68, improving their overall conference record to 11 wins. I don't want to say hard to believe. That's not fair. That's not fair. With what they've done this season, it's not hard to believe. But if I think back to a couple of months ago, it is 23-5 overall, 11-4. Florida coming to town next. Welcome aboard this edition of the Postgame Show. He's Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll get into your thoughts on this one. Our good friend Brad Muller will join us a little bit later on to preview tonight's Carolina-Arkansas women's game out in Fayetteville, the penultimate game of the regular season. Carolina will host Tennessee on Sunday to close things out. South Carolina, of course, is already the Southeastern Conference champion. They will be the 1 seed a week from tomorrow up in Greenville. And again, that's one championship down, 2 championships to go for Dawn Staley. She's about cutting down some nets, man.
And she's already got 1 net down.
Yeah. So and that's a literal truth. She is all about cutting down nets. You know? Not just hanging banners. She likes the net and passing along the little pieces and all that.
They make great necklaces.
Yeah. So, but for Carolina's men's team last night, I get it. Those of you who were watching, and I threw out on Twitter, it got ugly at times. I want to read a funny tweet, by the way, that I got in response to what I said about the game being kind of ugly at times. And it was kind of ugly at times. It was. But Michi, they were giving Michi hell last night because he did have did he have 2 air balls? I know it was at least 1 because they were saying air ball. And I was like.
Talon had him a couple.
Yeah.
Talon had a few at the end of the shot
I know
clock.
Michi had one and air ball, all that kind of stuff, which is fun. Whatever. But Michi had, 22 points last night, and he was just brilliant on both ends of the floor and doing Michi things. And I want to come back to the final sequence because, Talon had been fantastic. 2 gigantic 3-point shots late in the game. And then with a chance to put Carolina up at 68, it was 68-66 when he missed the free throw. And A&M went right down and got the layup with 9 seconds left. And I was like, oh, man, no. But Michi, and as if you were just listening to us at the end of the halftime show, Terry made mention, Lamont was like, all right, let's just go. And I'm thinking, Elijah, in Michi's head, when he sees Coach Paris giving him the, let's do it, go, I'm thinking Michi went hells yes, let's go, and just drives. And I've watched the final play, the final bucket, I don't know, about a half dozen times. And I just keep watching it for the sole purpose of trying to pinpoint the moment between Michi's ears when he knows he's going to pass the ball. And you wait, you can tell, all right, is the defender going to collapse? And I'm doing this, obviously, in very slow motion. Defender going to collapse, defender going to collapse. All right, I know he's coming. I know where I am. I see Zach. Because you could tell he scanned the floor. It was beautiful. You can see him scanning the floor. And as soon as the defender took that one step, Michi made one more move in to get all the way through. Didn't get fouled, obviously. No chance at all. Again, you could tell then, shoulder dipped. I'm not going up to the hole. And then what a brilliant pass. And I remember it saying out loud, oh, what a pass. Oh, like that. I did that at my house. I'm like, oh, what a pass. Oh, because Zach at that point, I mean, dude, that's the easiest gimme in the history of basketball right there. And Zach was so calm about that. Just blink, done. But I watched it a bunch of times to try and pinpoint. And right before Michi gets to the elbow, he knows then, all right, I know exactly how this is going to play out. and then he just made it happen. And then you still got to make that pass.
The degree of difficulty is pretty tough.
Yeah, but you could tell he knew exactly what he was going to do, and I thought that was pretty cool.
That's Exhibit A as to why I love when coaches do not call timeout right there, because then you would let the other team be able to set up. Yes, South Carolina is a really good half-court offense, but you saw it right there because 2 Texas A&M players, essentially, were on that side of the floor. They have to communicate. It's so much harder to communicate defensively going back in transition like that if you just press and attack, to get into the lane on the other end without calling that timeout. You don't get as organized, and that was one of the reasons why Zach Davis was able to get that layup. And I think an underrated part of that, too, was Zach Davis seeing that Michi's getting to the basket. So 2 things can happen. He's going to shoot, or 3 things, let's say. He shoots a layup, makes it, shoots a layup, misses. You got to be there for a rebound, or he draws another defender. You're open. Zach Davis put on a clinic in moving without the ball last night and cutting to the basket, and that was the best one.
It's been fun to watch his emergence here of late, the continued improvement of Colin Murray-Boyles. We've seen, Michi is your high-energy veteran. Talon is your quiet leader. B.J. Mack has done his job so well. This team has a lot of different personalities and a lot of different roles to play. And certainly, I don't know if they're, quote, overachieving. They are in the sense relative to expectation, right? They're overachieving. But I don't know if in Lamont's mind, with what he knew he had, if they're really, are they just simply achieving? This is who they can be. They don't play a beautiful brand of basketball. And Elijah and I were talking off air about this yesterday, I think, or day before. But I was telling you, there were times under Frank Martin, and I'm not judging Frank or anything like that, because Frank had some good teams that didn't make the tournament. He did. They had some good conference slates. Again, sometimes December hurt them, but that's neither here nor there. There were times, though, and perhaps it was the absence of a real point guard most of the time while Frank was here that this happened. But Carolina would play rock fight basketball, and I don't know that Frank really wanted to. You know what I mean? And games would get ugly. Like, I can think of some Carolina-Georgia games especially, and it was a time when those were the 2 worst teams in the conference. And it was just bad basketball. When I see this team now, knowing how deliberate they are, it doesn't look like that. Now, last night got ugly at times because of some fouls and the way A&M, because A&M's not very good, as you told us, they're not very good at finishing. But sometimes, I just see them and I'm like, it's a nice brand of basketball. I like the old school movement, the way they share, the way they distribute, the way they look for the open pass, and how teams know that's the best way to frustrate South Carolina. And at times last night we saw that again. You got to shut down the passing lane. We saw LSU do it brilliantly. Coach McMahon had his guys, after they were down big, guys, shut down the bleeping passing lane. And it frustrated Carolina the rest of the day, and they ended up losing that game. Last night, A&M did a pretty good job of it. That was a very impressive run A&M went on. And Carolina went, about 6 or 7 minutes without scoring last night, or at least without a field goal. But I don't always look at it as like, boy, this is rock fight basketball. It's deliberate basketball. It's slow basketball. But maybe it's just my perception in the moment. I'm not sure. That it looks to be a nicer brand of basketball. And again, that's not knocking what Frank did. It's just I think Frank wanted to do something system-wise that Carolina couldn't always execute, which may have made it a little bit uglier. So, but a nice win. We got more to get to on this one coming up in just a little bit with sound from Coach Paris in postgame. Florida comes to town on Saturday afternoon in a big one. Florida did, as we expected, win last night. So that's a big game. Carolina has a 1-game lead. Should Florida win, the 2 teams would be tied, and Florida would have the edge. Carolina would still, I think, as we speak, be in the top 4. That's why last night was so big. Again, it alleviates a little bit of pressure on you, South Carolina, because if you didn't see any of it last night, and I did, and I know you did, Mr. Campbell, Tennessee looked strong. And Dalton Knecht, who's been playing brilliantly all season, I assure you, kids, last night had his best game of the year.
He might have locked up SEC Player of the Year.
I think he already had it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, at this point, to stay with your analogy, I think he had already shut the door and probably locked it. Now the key is, like, he's thrown it into the Tennessee River.
Yeah, it's nowhere to be seen.
You're not finding that key. No. I don't even know who. Give me somebody who's still with 3 games left.
I would have accepted an argument for Mark Sears from Alabama.
Sears is playing,
scores a ton, distributes.
Maybe the
a
Broom
ton.
kid is playing well. But
Janai Broom, yeah,
Connect. It's Connect, man.
And ironically enough, a lot of the biggest buckets that Connect scored were while Janai Broom was guarding him or trying to guard him.
Which again, that's why the key is now gone.
Yes. Yeah, it's a pretty good display.
Yeah.
It's not like he's scoring 39 points and shooting 30 shots. He was incredibly efficient last night.
We'll get into some Gamecock football notes for you. If you didn't hear, it was made official earlier today and began to trickle out last night that Mike Furry will be South Carolina's new wide receiver coach. Spent 8 seasons in the National Football League. Was a receivers coach for the Chicago Bears, had most recently been head coach at Limestone up in Gaffney. And the word, when he got there, they were terrible. He has turned them around. He's a good morale guy. He's an excellent teacher. Some may not be dazzled by this when you say, what? A guy from Limestone? He's the head coach. There is that. Again, he spent several seasons as an assistant in the National Football League. He wanted to get into this at the collegiate level. So took a head coaching job in D2, but by all accounts, from what I've been reading, he's done quite well, in a relative sense, certainly. And Shane and Dowell, I think Dowell knows him from the NFL days. And, again, being in state, having some familiarity, but wanting to continue to climb the ladder. And this is a trend. Now, again, this is not a D1 coach that's leaving his job, but from all accounts. And, man, when I saw a lot of people from outside of this program that know this guy, it was nothing but positivity about what kind of teacher and developer he is. So, and that's really, listen, you always need recruiters. This is college sports. And he may well be able to go out and do some good recruiting. They've got recruiters, and I'm not saying, so don't worry about his ability to recruit or not recruit. But they need better wide receiver development. And by all accounts, that's what Coach Furry is going to provide.
Yeah, and we'll see when the season starts. And I think, a couple weeks ago, you did a good analogy of like, okay, ask me in October.
Yeah.
Or ask me at Halloween.
Ask me at Halloween. That's what I say a lot of times. Ask me at Halloween. I'll let you know how it's going.
Because if we want to talk about just like regular position player development, it's going to take real life games, real life reps to be able to start seeing that and being able to implement a lot of stuff and be able to judge a coach on how certain position groups are doing. After Halloween, we'll see. I think so much is little known of him, I guess, in terms of coaching at the collegiate level. The reviews are good, but we'll see. I think this is a classic we'll see type thing. Coley had a bigger name because of where he was coming from. This could easily be as beneficial as a hire, but it's interesting to see exactly what this new group of wide receivers can do and how they look from, opening kickoff in late August to how they are going into the home stretch in November.
Our buddy Mike Uva summed it up really well. He said on Gamecock Central, while we're not judging him on the job he did as head coach, never mind the fact that he actually made Limestone relevant again in football. They finished tied for first in their conference the past 2 years and appeared in the D2 playoffs in his last 2 years as head coach. Anyone that pays attention to college football knows Limestone doesn't have a lot of resources. The fact that Furry was able to get talented players to play for his program is impressive. So that's a nutshell version of some of the things he did to turn that particular program around. Got a couple of you on the phone line that want to talk about Carolina basketball. We'll get into that for you. We've got Brad Muller coming up in just a bit. And around half an hour from now, the first opportunity amongst a few to win tickets to Saturday's Carolina-Clemson baseball game over at Segra Park. You are listening to the Postgame Show. PL Wine Pool and Spa. Been telling you about them for a long time, and I'm glad I am, too. Now, today's not one of those days where you might want to go jump in your pool. It's 57 degrees. A couple days ago, it was 77 degrees, and you wanted to, right? Don't worry, kids, soon enough. But if you have been dreaming of a brand-new pool in the backyard, now is a great time to call the experts at P-Dale Wine. They've been doing this for a long time. They are the Midland's leader in in-ground vinyl, fiberglass, gunite, swimming pool design, and installation. Once it's built, they'll come by and clean it for you. If you've had a pool for a while, they can still clean yours. But maybe you need some equipment repair. Maybe you need some upgrades. Maybe you got a vinyl pool, time for a new liner or a pool inspection. They can do all of that and so much more. You can even take water samples into their location at 5541 Sunset Boulevard. They'll test it, let you know what you need to do to keep it nice and clean all year long. Check them out online, PDaleWinePools.com. It's like the two beverages, ale and wine, P-Dale Wine Pool and Spa. Then invite Elijah and me over to jump in.
Now let's see if they can add on. Cross-court skip to Michi. He'll drive to the rim, hanging in the air. Layup goes, and he's fouled. Oh, it's Michi Johnson getting it done on the road tonight. That explosive first step to his right beat his man, and the help defense could not get there in time.
Michi with a brilliant game. Derek Scott on the call last night. Carolina 70-68 winners at A&M. Again, the Gamecocks run their record to 23-5, 11-4 in conference play. And I believe as we speak, Elijah, please correct me if I'm wrong, sir. As we speak, South Carolina is now in third place.
Sole possession of third.
Yeah. So, again, that one was big last night as you go into a huge head-to-head and the only matchup of the year with Florida, who is also playing some fantastic basketball.
Only a game behind you. Had their starting point guard kicked out of the game early in the second half and still ended up beating Missouri.
Speaking of kicked out of the game, even though they lost, you want to know why Alex Flanagan didn't get suspended? Because the SEC needs as many teams as possible. He scored 28 points last night in a 15-point loss.
He played really well. You know, the irony of that game was Musa Cisse got a flagrant for elbowing an Alabama player above the neck. So 2 straight games. And that was essentially what gave Alabama the biggest cushion of the game at the time. Yeah. And they end up, hitting like a bajillion more threes and pulling away at the end. So for the second straight game, Ole Miss elbow to the head or neck area of the opponent was key to their downfall. Let's get to the phone lines as you guys react to last night's game. Ray is up next. Hey, Ray, good afternoon, sir.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. I'll tell you, that was one heck of a wraparound pass by Michi.
Oh, yeah.
And no doubt, I mean, when, those guys scored, we got the ball in 9 seconds, and you're right, Jay. Michi, he was just, there was no doubt he was going to the hole. And, I mean, he went right by Coach Paris. And, Lamont sitting there with, he had that grin on his face like, yeah, I got my player the ball. I mean, the player who has the ball for me is the guy I want to have the ball. And it's like, why call a timeout? Why mess up a good thing? And, those guys, they do scouting reports, and they know Michi loves to drive it to the hole. And so when he was driving it, and it's like you said, he wasn't going to be denied to get there. Now, whether he's going to make it or not or whatever's going to happen, but he was going to get there. And one guy was guarding him. Another guy said, I better come over and help out. We can't let this guy beat us.
Yeah.
And as soon as he saw that, man, he made that wraparound pass, and it was just –
It was brilliant. And like I say, I was really trying, Ray, to pinpoint, like, where's the moment where Michi makes the decision, okay, I'll pass.
And one last thing I'd like to throw in there, Jay, is what's amazing is, okay, we all know what happened at Auburn. Then we came back home, and, oh, man, lost a gut-wrencher to LSU. Knowing that our next 2 games, are on the road at Ole Miss and at A&M, and knowing, those are Central Standard Time schools, so that hour will mess with you. Trust me, when you used to be at bed at 11 and you're still playing a basketball game, it could be tough. And the thing about it is they were both quad-win road wins. And our next 3 games are against quad-win teams. So we finish up the year against 5 opponents who are quad-win schools as we speak right now. Man, that's strong. And the fact that we're 2-0 already, it's just gravy here on out the way I look at it.
Well, it really could be, Ray, and thanks for the phone call, buddy. Yeah, this is what we talked about. These, Carolina was not going into these games a bubble team. They're in. But you can play your way onto it as well. And for Ole Miss and A&M, they needed to beat South Carolina for those very reasons because they are bubble teams. Ole Miss is still looking for win number 20. And I think A&M, boy, look, I'm not saying they're done yet, but that's 5 losses in a row. You might need to run the table and get a couple. I think there's still an opportunity for A&M, but it's going basically for losing 5 in a row, you may need to say win 5 in a row.
I mean, they have a pretty tough schedule. The road game at Georgia is not going to do much for the resume, but a home game against Mississippi State, who's in the top 30, will. Unfortunately, I know, Ray, at the time, the win against Ole Miss was a quad 1, but because Ole Miss got it smacked last night by Alabama, they have dropped out of the top 75 in net. Therefore, that is a quad 2 game, which is bad news for A&M, too, because that's where the end of the season is in Oxford. So they have only one more quad 1 opportunity left. Maybe if Ole Miss gets it together, maybe, inside the top 75, that will become a Q1 win. And if they get 2 of those, then they'll have 8 on the season. It'd be hard to turn them down. But they do have multiple quad 3 losses. I don't foresee A&M, winning those games.
Right.
And even if they did, I still don't foresee them undoing a lot of the damage they did to their resume here in the last month.
I agree. Ray, thanks for the phone call, buddy. Rick is up next on the Love Chevy phone lines. Hey, Rick.
Hey, guys. How are y'all today?
Doing well, sir. Hope you are.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm struggling. I'm watching the Braves and Minnesota spring ball, but
Wait, last I saw, the Braves were winning. Are they losing now?
Yeah, they're 5-0 in the eighth.
Okay.
But the reason that I called was basketball, and I was a Frank Martin supporter. But you know what, Jay? The thing that I never could get a hold on, and I am certainly not a college basketball guru, but I could never get the identification of the identity of his team.
Yeah.
Coach, this year, I know the identity. And I know Frank took us to the Final Four and all that, but and I'm 60 years old, and coaches getting in your grill, and that was just like a way of life. If you were going to play sports, even youth sports, and it's just the way the coach. I already see the identity. I know, unless you run up against the buzzsaw like we did a few games back, when there's probably nothing we could have done. But I know what I'm expecting when I go to a game or watch a game on TV. And, you know, there's hints of that Wisconsin pedigree.
Yeah.
But Coach is, I mean, I know the thing is you know the product that you're going to get, and they're good at it. That's the difference, I think, in a lot of college teams.
Yeah.
I
agree with you.
They're good at it.
Yeah, they are. That's what I'm saying, that you know what you're getting. And you know, look, I was a Frank Martin supporter too. I'm glad Lamont is here and doing his thing. And Frank's team is doing pretty well at UMass this year. I'm glad for that. I like Frank. I do.
He'll be in the MAC next year.
Yeah.
Action Frank.
So, although really, I feel like the A-10's a better basketball league.
Oh, significantly.
Yeah.
Ken Palm ranks the conferences.
Yeah.
With the same efficiency metrics they do teams.
Yeah.
The A10 is the 9th best conference in the country. The MAC is the 24th.
Ooh, my.
So it's not just.
Then UMass should go just rule the MAC.
They should. Hey, Frank might get him an auto bid next year from winning the MAC. Significantly easier conference.
Yeah, I like the A10. You know, they used to have games on Peacock, like after I was watching Premier League. You know, and you get like a really good like GW St. Bonnie's game or something.
Yeah.
Like, and you think like that's not, but it's entertaining basketball.
Oh, hey, I mean, tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, you got nothing going on. Loyola and Dayton are playing for a spot at the top of the A10 standings. Two really good basketball teams.
I mean, Davidson's in there, Rhode Island, Richmond. I mean, there's some good basketball. Anyway, now, listen, I think one of the things, Rick, I mean, maybe we alluded to this a few minutes ago to go to your point. Frank's system, look, almost any good basketball system needs a point guard. It's like saying any good football system needs a quarterback. Now, listen, you might run the triple option, but you better have a quarterback that understands, I got 4 or 5 things that I might have to do here. What is it that the defense is going to present to me that has me make my decision? Do I keep it? Do I toss? Do I hand off? Do I actually roll out and throw to my tight end or to that wide receiver?
That's blasphemous.
You know, now that's not always one of the options in a triple option, but sometimes it is. And if it's there, you got to be ready for it. But in basketball, look, I'm not breaking news here. You need a point guard. And, Frank just rarely had that guy. And again, Ra Felder was going to be that guy. And Ra got himself in trouble twice. And, Frank never really got one again. Gravitt was okay at it, but he wasn't a true one. PJ could play the one, and that team, obviously, and that was sort of a hybrid one anyway. And again, that team was really good. And they had 4 dudes on that team that went on to play in the NBA. Again, nobody was a star, but relative to what is typical of South Carolina basketball, to have 4 dudes at once on the team that all had more than a cup of coffee in the NBA, that's pretty good. Well, Gravitt might have had a cup of coffee. But the others, PJ played a little bit. Sin played a little bit. Silva played a little bit. So more on this for you coming up as the postgame show continues. Talking some Carolina hoops on this Wednesday afternoon, Thursday. Sorry. I'm sitting here looking down at yesterday's email. Hold on, Jay.
What day is it?
It's Thursday.
Woo.
Why am I still looking? Hey, just, you know what? Let's just hit delete on that. I don't need that email anymore anyway.
Thursday is just Wednesday part 2.
There we go.
If you think about it.
I like to call it Friday Eve.
See, also the prequel to Friday.
Yeah. We will be giving you a chance to win some Carolina Clemson baseball tickets. The Battle at Bull Street, Saturday. Sold out. These games always sell out.
That's no surprise.
Like that. I want to conclude my thought before we get to Barry on the phone line here, because I ran out of time and had to hit the hard break so we can all get paid. But again, Frank, Frank's a good basketball coach, but he needed the point guard. And this year, the point I was going to come around to was, Talon is filling that role. Even last year, Michi was asked to maybe, again, sometimes play sort of a hybrid role. He brought the ball up the majority of the time. But Michi's better suited to do what he's doing as the 2. Now, you still, look, it doesn't mean your point guard always brings the ball up. There's plenty of times when you see Michi bring the ball up and you see Talon move down to the wing, because this offense knows how to rotate through and things like that. But with Talon's presence out there, it has freed Michi to do so many things. But if you just tuned in, we had a caller say, and I could never really get what Frank's identity was in terms of basketball. And I think that's fair. That's a fair observation. I think there were plenty of times when Frank got frustrated by the fact that he could never really do what he wanted to do. Frank didn't want to play rock fight basketball. Frank would probably rather play for, I can't say this fully, but my gut, Elijah, would tell me that if there was a current style of play that's being done in the Southeastern Conference at its best, he'd like to play the way Bruce Pearl plays. I think that's a lot of what Frank would have liked to do. I can be physical with you, and like you and I have talked about, if you want to slow me down, I can do that. If you want to speed me up, I can do that. Otherwise, I'd like to play. I think Frank would like to have played in the 80s, the 70s and 80s, but I don't know that he had the talent, the personnel.
Yeah.
I want to differentiate the semantics of the talent and the personnel, but not having the one, not having that true one to really facilitate so much of what you must do, I just think always was sort of a hindrance for Frank Martin in Columbia.
I think it's pretty ironic that you did say if he could play like anybody right now, that it would be Bruce Pearl and this, like this Auburn team, because when I look at this Auburn team, the first thing that I think of when I'm like, what could be the thing that keeps them from going to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament? It's that they don't get a ton of assist production and facilitation from their point guards.
Right.
Trey Donaldson's a solid point guard, but can he facilitate a shot for you if it's a game in the 50s and there's 3 minutes left and you need a big bucket to end a drought? Can Aiden Holloway, the freshman, do it? He's a decent shooter who's been on an ice-cold streak here in the last month or so, minus the Georgia game. But they don't have a point guard that I'd be like, you know what? I trust to get you a quality shot. A lot of their ball movement does come from other wing players. Mm-hmm. I think that's the one thing that this Auburn team is missing. So it is kind of ironic that that would be a classic Frank Martin, wishful style of play.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to just say that's exactly what it would be, but I remember
it's a good guess. I can see it.
When we got and Frank would tell us a lot about his philosophies and stuff, and he's like, I don't really want to do it this way, but I think as good coaches do, you must adapt in order to fit what it is that your roster is capable of, and so a lot of times that just meant things that maybe weren't as ideal from a coaching philosophy point of view. But I thought was that Ray that made the point? I think that was a good observation. I'm with you. And now to his point about now, you do see it. And yes, you do see it with Lamont. You see what he wants from everybody. And more importantly, everybody knows what Lamont wants from them. And as you watch not just the veterans with Talon and Michi and BJ Mack, but again, the youth of Zach Davis, Colin Murray Boyles. Look, Lamont has said, going back to the Bahamas trip and the things in the summer, boy, maybe the best guy on the team was Colin. And then he got Mono.
Yeah, like last night's a good example. Like the counting stats might not be as jump off the page as they have been in some other games, but if you look at the player who had the best plus minus from last night, it was Colin Murray-Boyles at plus 13. When he's in the game, they are a different team offensively. He does make them go in a lot of ways.
He's a good one. Barry up next on the Love Chevy phone lines. Hey, Barry.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing well. Hope you are.
All right, man. As far as Frank goes, I really never really liked Frank Martin's style. Okay, we talked about it when he was coaching here, and but the year he took them to their Final Four, they played the kind of defense that they're playing now. So it's quite similar, okay? I don't watch much college basketball anymore, but I've been ill, so I've had a chance to watch some. I watched Carolina play about 4 games. The first game I saw B.J. Mack play, I knew automatically that he was a stud, okay? One game, all it took me to know is that Josh Gray was not going to be playing much anymore, okay? Which is no big deal, okay? No big deal because the guy's a beast. And you can't run a half-court offense against his squad. They are in your face. They are in your face. They are in your face. And it is due to his approach and the way that he talks to his kids and the way that he relates to his kids. And, I don't ever believe when they talk about kids buying into a system, that's like Coach Pop. Nobody buys into your system. When they recruit you, they know what your role is going to be there, and they're going to tell you that. You don't buy in. You come and you do what the coach wants you to do. So that's what these kids have done. They're coming here. They're performing like they're supposed to perform. They play hard. They give you 48 minutes or 40 minutes, okay?
40
Whereas
minutes of
before,
college,
you might get 30 minutes. You might get 28 minutes. He's getting 40 minutes out of these kids. And it's just a tremendous improvement. And I honestly believe, I've never made a prediction on this show, but I honestly believe if they get a decent matchup in the first round, that they will make it through the first round. I feel that they're a top 32 team, and I don't know how far they'll go after that. I don't know if they'll win the first round game. But what I'm telling you is what I see there this year is as good as a squad, a united squad, as I've seen there in quite a few years.
Yeah, listen, Barry, I like what they can do, and this is a head coach who has tons of tournament winning experience. That matters. You need to play quality defense, and you need to block out the noise, and we are seeing with this team on the road this year, in true road games, how good they're playing, how well they can do. In neutral environments. And sometimes NCAA tournament games, man, there might only be a couple thousand people in there. Sometimes there may be a full house. It depends on who there's a lot of factors. And you can't worry about any of that. And, does winning on the road in true road regular season environments really steal you for the tournament? In some ways, yes, of course, because you're not at your place, but you won't be at your place in the tournament either. So I just think, Lamont at Wisconsin, I know he was an assistant, but they did a lot of winning in that tournament. He knows what that looks and feels like. He knows what that needs, if you will. Now, that means you got to go do it, right? There's only one way to win. You got to go win the game. Yeah. So
Bo Ryan went to 14 NCAA tournaments, was in the Sweet 16, and at least the Sweet 16 in 7 of them. I think he coached under a guy who knows what it takes to win in terms of scouting, the process, and winning in those short turnaround type settings. We got to learn from.
Are we doing this now? Do I need to tell people? No, it's not yet, is it?
No, let's do it now.
You want to do it now?
Yeah, we can do it now. That way it gives me the break to give them
line up your phone calls. You're going to get a chance with some trivia to win some baseball tickets to Carolina Clemson on Saturday. So call now, 803-404-6100. We'll line you up and explain what we're going to do. I'm going to throw it at you. No pun intended. All right, so a chance to win coming up as the postgame show continues. Welcome back into the Postgame Show on this Thursday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock. We'll get into more of what's going on around college football, both locally and nationally. Could be some massive change coming. I'm actually kind of nervous about this when we talk about it, because it makes me kind of scared.
I'm very uneasy about it.
Yeah, it's a little.
We had our meeting before the show.
Yeah.
It made me feel a little uncomfortable.
In the meantime, I don't want you to be uneasy as you try to answer these questions, but let's hit it, and I'll explain.
It's time to give away a pair of tickets to the Battle of Bull Street for Saturday. Call now at 803-404-6100 and test your Carolina baseball knowledge on the Postgame Show.
You've already called, so that's good. We got that part out of the way. I probably should have done that beforehand, but we're brand new at this.
This is a cold release of it. We heard it for the first time.
I just wanted you to go ahead and call. I wanted you to be well in advance. So, that, and by the way, the phones are full. So even if you do try to call right now, it's just going to be busy. So here's what we're going to do. I have a 3-choice, multiple choice question for you. 3-answer, multiple choice question. We took these calls in order. So we have Michael, we have Randy, and we have Mark. Is that right? Now, if Michael gets it, then Randy and Mark, we love you, boys, but you're out.
It's like old NFL sudden death rules.
Yeah. Now, if Michael misses, then it'll be Randy's turn. And if Randy misses, then Mark, if you miss, dude, we're going to rag on you. But I don't think it'll happen. I don't know if that'll happen. So here we go. Let's bring Michael on board. And since, again, he got the luck of the draw, and going, again, we took these in order. So, first off, Michael, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good. About yourself?
Doing all right. Are you nervous?
I am.
Right.
I am.
Okay. Well, don't be too nervous. All right. Again, I got 3 choices here, all right? And I want you and Randy and Mark to be listening. But, again, Michael, if you get it right, then you win, and we move on. Here we go. Which school has South Carolina never played for the College World Series Championship? Which school has Carolina never played for the College World Series Championship? A, UCLA, B, Arizona State, C, Oklahoma State. Michael, do you know the answer?
State.
Which one?
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State is correct. Michael, you have won yourself
Ding, ding, ding.
a pair of tickets to Saturday's game. Randy, Mark, I'm sorry, boys. But Michael knew it. Yeah, I mean, Michael, you don't feel bad that you got Randy and Mark's chance, do you?
They can try tomorrow.
They can.
Y'all do it again.
They can try later today. They can try later today.
Okay, well, that's better.
There you go. So, Randy and Mark, thank you, boys. Yeah, Michael, congratulations. Yes, of course, South Carolina won the championship against UCLA in 2010, and they lost the championship to Arizona State in 1977. They have played Oklahoma State, but not for a World Series title. So, congratulations, Michael. Do we have everything we need from him? Are you wanting to stay on the line?
I took everybody's information before.
All right, good stuff.
Just in case they got the chance.
I hear you.
So.
All right. So, Mark and Randy, thank you, boys. Michael, congratulations, sir. Well done. Enjoy the ball game this weekend, man. Appreciate you listening.
Thank y'all, and y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. All right. Now, again, that's your first of 4 opportunities. We'll do one more in about an hour. All right. And then we'll do 2 tomorrow. So these are all for Saturday's game at Segra Park, the Battle at Bull Street. Is it Battle at Bull Street or Battle of Bull Street? Does it matter?
Battle of Bull Street, I thought.
All right.
I like of.
There's some kind of preposition.
Yeah. One of the many. But not like behind or underneath. It is very much at location.
It's either at or of. Or both.
Battle beneath Bull Street would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would insinuate that the game
sounds
is
like a
being
Fight
played
Club kind of thing,
down.
right?
Yeah, underground. Yeah.
Fight Club.
That would be. But we can't talk about it because that would violate.
Yeah, it's the first rule.
Can't do it.
I was actually watching an episode of 30 Rock recently where Liz gets suspended and meets a bunch of other women about her age who have also had to miss work for a while, and she suddenly realizes as they try to keep themselves sane that what they actually do instead of, she said, they all pretend they go shopping and stuff. And they have a fight club. She goes, oh, my God, is this a fight club? And then she goes back to work with a black eye. I love 30 Rock. If y'all don't watch 30 Rock, it's on Peacock now. It's so funny. But, she's like, I just want to go back to work. Anyway, congratulations, Michael. Appreciate you. And Randy and Mark, thank you, boys. We'll try it again next hour. Brad Muller coming up. And, again, big change potentially coming to college football. Not kidding, y'all. We'll talk about it. But first, let me tell you about our good friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Let me say right off the bat, my wife and I have been customers at Palmetto Citizens for many years. Love what we get from them. If you're a homeowner looking to make some home improvements, family is growing, or you want to, add on something, again, maybe the kids want to get away from you or you want to get away from the kids, call. And I mean that in a nice way, obviously. Call our good friends at Palmetto Citizens. Take advantage of their great home equity lines of credit. They're local. They're going to help you out. They know your neighborhoods. They know home values, all that kind of stuff. And their home equity loans offer a great low rate. You pay no closing costs or application fees. And when you use their home equity lines, you can easily access that credit over the 10-year draw. So there's a lot of things you can do to make your life a whole lot better around the house. Apply today, palmettocitizens.org or any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential. 4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Happy Leap Day, by the way. We didn't wish you a happy Leap Day in the opening hour of the program. I'm sorry.
Like the Olympics, it only comes once every 4 years.
I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way. I was very surprised this morning. I saw 2 different shows that were basically giving people a tutorial on why there's a Leap Day. And I thought almost everybody kind of knew that. Maybe I remember learning that a long time ago.
Well, I was taught it a long time ago. Do I remember it? No, absolutely not.
So do you know why there's a Leap Day? You remember, don't you? You know.
Is it a celebration of the frogs of the world who leap on a daily basis, and every 4 years you get to celebrate them?
No, I did. I was like, but I guess it's been – so do people just like think about Leap Day, I guess, literally once every 4 years, and then you just don't think about it again? But, a year is not actually 365 days. It's actually 365 and 1/4 days.
And some change.
Yeah. And so a long, 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 long time ago, they figured out, man, if we want to keep the calendar the way the calendar is, then we got to add a day every 4 years to make that like all. Otherwise, June would be November and March would be August. And
it would get really weird.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. We don't need that. So that's what Leap Day is. And that way, everything that we're used to, calendar-wise, stays the same.
Look at that. I relearned something new today.
Yeah. Now, again, back in the olden days, say caveman days and such, they didn't have any idea about that.
How do you know they didn't have any idea about that?
I don't think they did anyway.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Well, I'm not that old.
You said it with such certainty. I thought you might have.
I think they've known for a while, but yeah, that's what it is. I don't know. Again, it's not like I'm some kind of astronomer or something. All right, I don't mean it that way, but I have known for a long time why we have a Leap Day. And then people ask so then I saw another thing today. I was like, so wait, I think it was I watching? Yeah, it was when I was watching the Today Show this morning. One of them, somebody said so does that mean that they're only 10? And I'm like, no, you're still alive for however many years. If you were born on Leap Day, the years in between still exist.
Oh, yeah, like Tyrese Halliburton. He was born on Leap Day. This is his 6th birthday, but he is not. Yeah,
it's your 6th birth. It's a celebration of your birth date, right? And I don't know when you celebrate your birthday otherwise, but, the government's going to get you, by March 1st, you've been alive another year.
Yes. Like Tyrese Halliburton, Indiana Pacers point guard, is not legally 6 years old, even though today is technically his 6th birthday celebrated on the day he was born.
Well, that's why I was telling you yesterday about there's a great Modern Family where Cam, one of the characters, is a Leap Day person, a birthday. And he's in the episode, he's turning 40, but he says, and I'm 10. And they're like, no, you're 40. And he goes, yeah, but it's fun because I'm 10. And they're like, yeah, no, you're 40. And then he completely melts down. I was like, oh God, I'm 40. It's like, well, you knew you weren't 10, but anyway.
Closer to that.
I know a couple people that were born on Leap Day, and it's cool. I mean, that's kind of neat. My wife and I were talking. She's like, what are the number of people born? I was like, that number of people born today is probably about the same as any other day, whatever the average number of children born on any given day, right?
What do you think the split is on the day they celebrate it, as in February 28th or March 1st?
That's a good question. And were it me, and it's not, my birthday's in October, so I would do it on February 28th because I want to go ahead and do it. Right?
I'll see. I'd go March 1st. As a March baby myself, March is the best month on the calendar.
Okay.
In general. So what better way to
I got married in March. I mean, I'll give you some of that.
Hey, nice. See, best month on the calendar.
Sure.
And we are so close to it. It's not even funny.
Tomorrow.
I'd go March 1st. It's like asking somebody though.
But then you're celebrating your birthday in March, and you were born in February. That's why I say last day of February.
That makes sense. That's a good angle. I can't argue against that. Yeah. But this is kind of like asking somebody when you celebrate Jeff Fisher Day. Do you do it July 9th on 7/9 or August 8th 8/8? When do you celebrate Jeff Fisher Day?
I don't know. I had him on the show once. Long time ago.
You didn't ask him when he celebrates Jeff Fisher Day?
No. What is Jeff Fisher Day?
You're either 7/9 or 8/8.
Oh, I get it.
Which is, so it's July 9th or August 8th.
Okay.
I'm an August 8th guy myself.
I got you. No, that's nice. Anyway, happy Leap Day. And whether you choose to take this as one of those great opportunities to go do something you would never do, or you just treat it like any other day, enjoy it. Be safe out there.
Don't get too weird.
Again, we talked a lot in the first hour about Carolina's big win over A&M. We'll come back around to that with some sound from Coach Paris coming up for you in the 5 o'clock hour. Gamecock football news. Mike Furry has been named the new wide receivers coach. It's a 2-year deal. It'll pay him $425,000 a year plus incentives. He comes down after being the head coach at Limestone up in Gaffney. He spent 8 years in the league as a receiver and a few seasons as wide receivers coach of the Chicago Bears. So, by all accounts, an excellent teacher. And again, the outpouring of what I would call third-party congratulations was very telling, and I say surprising. It's not surprising. I don't know what surprising might mean, but very telling about those that have worked with him or been taught by him, coached by him, what they think of him. But they're all very excited and believe that South Carolina has gotten an excellent teacher and coach when it comes to that. And that's what they wanted to do. They needed an upgrade. They didn't just need a recruiting upgrade. They needed an upgrade as a position coach, too. They had to have it. Got James Coley, Georgia, the best program in the country, wanted James Coley, too. I suppose if I'm James Coley, I'm taking the gig, man, especially when I'm getting a raise and my new employer will pay my old employer the full buyout. That's kind of, that tells you a lot, in my opinion. So they've acted quickly, have Shane and Dowell. And I believe that Mike and Dowell have at least some type of connection from the Chicago Bears. But Mike will be heading down to Columbia here soon. An official press conference is tomorrow morning, I believe, with Coach Beamer and Coach Furry.
Exciting.
Yeah. Tomorrow on the show, by the way, we will have Chance Miller, Associate AD. We'll talk a lot of things, including football, which he oversees. Of course, the big soccer game with Liverpool and United. We'll get into a lot of things. Looking forward to having Chance here in studio on tomorrow's program. All right, we're going to spend some time on this, and I'm going to blend a few different topics, but this is a big deal. By now, many of you, most of you, all of you know that the college football playoff is expanding to 12, and really as they continue to figure out the logistics of what the 12-team model looks like for the coming years, they've already begun talking about a 14 or 16 school college football playoff. And from what we have gathered this week, as more meetings are taking place, 14, at least in the short term, is what they're going to settle upon come 2026. Not done yet, but then it's when it got weird, because last week Bill Hancock said, well, we need to figure these things out by the end of March, and there's a lot of things to do, because you have to start securing blocks of hotels in big cities well in advance. All these big cities, lots of stuff happens there, and I need the Marriott, I need the Hilton, I need the Westin, whatever it is.
The Scottish Inn.
Yeah, sure. I need that Motel 6 by the airport. Oh, that was Hugh Freeze. I'm sorry, let me scratch that. Oh, yeah. My bad.
Bought with the school card.
Sorry, Hugh. Just messing with you.
Or not. I'm serious.
But then something else came up. And this is, again, where it gets weird. I'm going to read this. This is from Heather Dinich of ESPN. And this is about the middle of an article where she begins talking about what a 14-school model would look like and who's going to run things, the governance of it all. And she writes this: the modeling is tricky as college sports remains a moving target. This ESPN deal would run through the 2031 season, and it's naive to think the conference map will look the same as it does today. One high-ranking official involved in the discussions told ESPN on Wednesday that the presidents and chancellors in both the SEC and Big Ten are having conversations about whether to continue their NCAA membership. It's a move that would impact and could possibly derail the TV agreement. A source said, quote, those conversations are happening, and some feel pretty strongly about pulling away. I'd say very strongly, end quote. Again, that's from Heather Dinich this morning at ESPN.com. She was also on Dan Patrick's program earlier today speaking on a lot of this, and in her I don't want to say her opinion, but in the information she's gathered, Dan asked her, is this the SEC and Big Ten kind of maybe pushing for this together? Is the Big Ten, and she said, no, it feels like the Big Ten sort of taking the lead on this in terms of at least looking at what the real big picture future is going to look like. And whichever one's doing it, they're going to seemingly do this together. And what I say, this makes me kind of nervous. Look, if they do it, they do it. But what does that look like? We've talked a lot, Elijah, as college sports fans, whether it's you and me or me with this audience, you and your previous job, when we sit around with our buddies at the bar or at the tailgate or wherever, about what the future is going to look like. And we know it's changing. We know it's evolving daily. And one of the things that's come up is, why don't the Power 5 schools take more advantage of the autonomy they've been granted? And that's really been one of my biggest questions, I'll just say, all along in this. Other than a few minor things, they just haven't. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because even within those ranks, they can't build their own consensus. But, I said this last week. You're going to start seeing the SEC and Big Ten begin to flex. This is a flex. And this is their second big flex in the last couple of weeks. And I doubt it's the last. Now, does this mean they're leaving the NCAA? No, it doesn't. Do they want to continue to expand their leagues? I don't know. When the new school year begins, there will be 18 schools in the Big Ten, and there will be 16 schools in the Southeastern Conference. Seen a lot of people saying this is going to really set the table for Notre Dame to join the Big Ten and for, Florida State to leave the ACC. Heather was asked about that today, by the way, in terms of Notre Dame. She said, Notre Dame's not going anywhere.
They got it made.
Yeah, and they're not. Notre Dame's not, Notre Dame would have to be, forced at the point of a bayonet, as someone once said, to join a conference.
If there's ever a report saying Notre Dame is looking to join a conference, someone needs to go send the police over to South Bend because they're being held hostage.
Yeah.
And that's a rant, and that's like a cry for help.
Well, and that Yahoo carnival barker that we referenced the other day, that we didn't even say his name, who still somehow manages to have 85,000 followers on Twitter.
A lot of cabbage.
Notre Dame's definitely on the way to the Big Ten. This is just a matter of time now. And again, one of the best at their job in the business today on a national program. Notre Dame's not going anywhere. And again, they don't need to. So I'm going to take her word for it relative to the Yahoo from the other day. But what does this look like? You leave the NCAA. The NCAA already has virtually no control directly over what college football wants to look like. The NCAA enforces the rules, and that's really about it. Right? That's really about it. They don't distribute the money the way they do in basketball or in any other championship. But that comes around to the point. And that's what I want to get to on the other side here. Any other championship. NCAA men's basketball tournament makes a lot of money. The women's tournament is now poised to quadruple what it brings in?
Mm-hmm.
College World Series and Frozen Four, while they don't make tons of money, are very popular events.
Looped in the same TV deal as the women's basketball.
And all administered by the NCAA. So what does it look like if the Big Ten and SEC and its leaders, its presidents and chancellors have already discussed leaving? We'll get into that. And if you want to chime in, 803-404-6100, you're listening to the Postgame Show. Time to tell you about our good friends at AAA Heating and Air in the South Carolina Midlands. AAA has long been your year-round ally against the changing weather. And if it's time for you to change how your system helps you out, get a free replacement estimate from AAA. They set the tone for quality and affordability. Just log on to callAAAtoday.com. and get your few bits of information in there. Next thing you know, you got yourself an estimate and know what it is that you and your family will be paying for. And get this, too. Roy and Dana Finley right now offering you 12 months, no payments, no interest. So you've got time to put a little bit away and still have your budget needs met. Their 15-year parts and labor warranty also speaks volumes of their trust in their service and their products. I love what they've done at my house. I know you will, too. Don't just take my word for it. Head to their website, call AAAtoday.com, get that instant quote, see the difference for yourself. Tell them Jay Phillips sent you, and stay comfortable with AAA Heating and Air. Nineteen minutes after 4 o'clock on this Thursday. Happy Leap Day, and welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being with us. Our good friend Brad Muller joining us in just a few to talk Carolina women's basketball. He's over in Fayetteville, Gamecocks in Arkansas tonight. It's a late tip. What, 9 o'clock, right?
Correct, which means our pregame will be at about 8:30.
All right. And we have Carolina calls tonight at 6. Lamont and Derek down the street that way. if you're watching on YouTube that way. And if you're just listening, trust me, it is. I wouldn't lie to you. Right down there. Tonight at 6. All right, so next week, the two leadership committees of the college football playoff, the one that, gets everything done, and that's the conference commissioners plus the Notre Dame AD. And then the other one is the one that, votes on all of it, and that's the committee that's made up of a president or chancellor from each of the conferences plus Notre Dame's president. I don't know that they approve all this next week. And look, I don't want to be alarmist. Next week, the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten aren't announcing. And by the way, we're leaving the NCAA. But that this is so public, Elijah. These things aren't done accidentally. So what does it look like? I mean, we all love the NCAA basketball tournaments. The men's tournament brings in tens of millions a year, maybe hundreds of millions a year. I don't know what the new deal is now. It's
billions with a B.
Yeah. Not annually, though, right? But I
think broken down, yeah.
I don't know. It's tons of money. And again, the women's tournament they just signed a new deal with Disney for, as Elijah said, for really all of the other NCAA championships, but that number has gone up tremendously. And when they carved out the percentage of what the women's tournament was valued at, it was something like 4 times greater than what the women's tournament used to be valued at. So I mean that's a gigantic jump in value. So, and look, do the North Carolinas and Kansases still Duke win the men's tournament? And Carolina and Connecticut and LSU win the women's tournament? Yeah, okay. And they still will, but we like when again, Manhattan finds a way to upset, and I don't know if this has ever happened, Syracuse, I don't like it when, say, Coppin State upsets a South Carolina.
It's all fun and games until it happens to you.
Or when, say, a Richmond upsets a South Carolina. The good news is Richmond had already been a 15 that beat a 2 Syracuse a couple years earlier than that. So
underseeded Richmond.
Thank God South Carolina wasn't the first one to have that happen. Anyway, I digress. We love those excitement moments, those things that happen like that. And those happen with schools that are outside of the traditional so-called Power Five. And in the case of basketball, you have the Big East as well. Okay, you're going to have a Big Ten SEC, quote, national championship. Now, listen, you can argue that, hey, we're in almost every time zone. I think they actually now, with Colorado being out of the Pac-12 and into the Big 12, I don't believe there is a Big Ten school. And I know there's not an SEC school in the Mountain time zone. But you are on the other coast if you're the Big Ten. And for the Southeastern Conference, you've got a nice reach from the state of Kentucky to the state of Texas to the state of Florida. But it's 34 schools. You if you want to have a basketball championship.
Not a real national championship.
Right. If you want a basketball championship, you need the ACC. You need the Big East. You need the Big 12. And you might need, as we were talking about, you might need the A-10. San Diego State, Mountain West. What's FAU? CUSA?
They were CUSA. They're in AAC now.
Oh, wow. So there's that. I mean, again, I won't even get into, I'll just use basketball because that's the best example to use.
Yep.
But, baseball, I mean, you got Fullerton and Long Beach and schools like that,
Well, when you're
Coastal won the title out of the Sun Belt.
And you're able to get, 65 or so some odd teams in these things, and then you're not going to be able to have that because that is more than what you have in your entire leagues. You wouldn't be able to have long postseason. And
so that brings me to more of a rhetorical question, but if the SEC and Big Ten are comfortable enough with telling a national ESPN college football report that, hey, we're kind of thinking about this, or at least somebody says, I think they're pretty strongly thinking about this. it's not by accident. You don't float those trial balloons and go, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Now, you know what you're doing.
They're calculated.
What's the end game? That's my question. Like, why would you be saying this? What is it that you're looking for? Again, this is a flex, but what's the end game?
It's a good question. I was thinking about it earlier today when we were talking about it. Like, what's a world with just the Big Ten and SEC because they broke away? What's the world like of college sports look like? And like, the old like paraphrase, maybe not even 100% accurate quote attributed to Albert Einstein that says, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but I know World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones, reverting to total reset of society. We'll have a total reset of college athletics. For fun, I was looking back earlier today at the college football year 1900. Yale was said to have won the national title. They were 12-0. They only gave up 10 points all year, but there was one conference and a group of independents. Yale was the best of the group of independents. They were awarded a national title. They didn't play any team from what was known as the Western Conference. That Western Conference is
the Lakers, the Clippers, the Blazers.
Then don't forget the Utah Jazz, Karl Malone, John Stockton, pick and roll combo. But outside of them, that Western Conference had Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Northwestern, Chicago, Indiana, Illinois, Purdue. Does that kind of sound familiar? Those schools kind of ring a bell?
It does. Sounds kind of like the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah. But you know what?
The Western Conference. Michigan, it's all those teams, by the way.
Michigan, yeah, right. Michigan, 10-0-2. Iowa, 7-0-1. Tied for the Western Conference Championship. They didn't play Yale because you couldn't play teams that were independent. No team did. So in 1900, Yale was our national champion because we said so.
Yeah.
No one else beat them. We're going to revert to something like that.
And
where
college football did that for another 90 years.
We are going to do SEC and Big Ten are going to play for a national championship. Yeah. But no, it's not going to mean as much. We're going to revert to the same thing. You know what's going to happen after maybe a decade of that? I have an idea. Let's combine one national champion to play the other national champion. Or we'll determine which two teams from these two separate, totally different worlds of college athletics can play with each other. Maybe call it the BCS. I don't know. Have computers pick them. We're going to eventually just get to the same point. We're going to relive.
Yeah.
This will completely
and these things
reset
do.
it.
Yeah, they seem more cyclical, right, than linear. I agree. Look again. I don't. If they break away, fine, but you're going to break away with others.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm all for them breaking away, if you will, or at least within the structure of the NCAA, again, creating their own new level. To go back to Governor Baker's proposal of 6 weeks ago. Hey, if you can put X amount into a trust fund, then we'll put you in a new subdivision, and you'll be the haves. And I'm here for that because that's again part of the problem that we have right now.
But a 90-team subdivision sounds like you could have a true national champion.
Yeah.
Where if they're still broken up into groups or conferences and you win one to qualify yourself for a larger tournament, we're going to have two 20-team leagues in which you only play not even a half of your league, and we're still going to have to try to determine playoffs and championships. It's still, we're going to end up facing the same problems that we did even 30 years ago.
So there's an end game here, and I'm sure it has to do with making even more money. And again, I'm not going to fault them for that in and of itself. But you don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just see a world where that's happening.
Or we're going to starve for what we used to have.
Yeah, and that's not good for anybody either. Like you said, for 10 years or so, oh, yeah, I'll watch that. And then it's like, I kind of want to see some other people. So, I don't know. It's interesting. But first and foremost, 14-school playoff is coming your way. Again, the SEC and Big Ten are flexing with some automatic qualifier spots. We'll touch on those things next week as those meetings continue. I believe those are not in Dallas, though, in person. They'll be via Zoom or Teams or whichever app they like to use. Brad Muller on the other side of the break. He'll be on the phone from Fayetteville talking women's basketball. Number 1 Gamecocks at Arkansas tonight. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Center, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways here this afternoon. We'll start off with a major one in Lexington County. An accident has the left lane completely blocked on I-20 westbound over at SC6 at your exit 55. Again, I-20 westbound at South Carolina 6, exit 55. An accident has the left lane completely blocked, so traffic's moving pretty slowly through there. One's recently been reported on Hardscrabble Road at Summit Parkway, causing traffic to move pretty slowly. Got another one in the Irmo-Chapin area. Looks like I-26 westbound over Broad River Road and your exit 97.
Time to talk some Carolina women's basketball. Back at it tonight on the Conference Road in Fayetteville. 9 o'clock tip from Bud Walton Arena. To discuss that and more, we welcome in our good friend, Brad Muller, the voice of Carolina women's basketball. And as we do, we just all got, those of us that get the ESPN breaking news alerts on our phone, we just got one. Caitlin Clark has announced that she will be entering the WNBA draft at the conclusion of Iowa's season, whenever that may be. So, Brad, I'll start you with that. Obviously, you've seen her firsthand last year. I know that was a painful day for Carolina basketball fans and for the women on the team themselves. But Caitlin Clark has become the face of the sport for now, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. With the the records that she's broken, and it's pretty cool to see what she can do at the next level. But what she's done during her collegiate career the last 4 years, absolutely astounding. And I think every college coach other than at Iowa around the country right now is breathing a sigh of relief, especially there in the Big Ten, that they're not going to have to face her next year since she's going to the WNBA draft, and it'll be interesting to see what she can do at the next level. But it's fun to watch her when she's not playing your team, just because of how accurate she is, and just her ability to hit from ridiculous range. It's she's in some ways changed the game a little bit, because that work really wasn't done at this level. And someone who could hit so consistently, from as deep as she takes shots, basically when she crosses midcourt. So, again, good news for everyone but Iowa.
Let's turn to the Gamecocks. Camila Cardoso's had the last couple of games off just to kind of, I suppose, recharge the batteries is the best way to put it, Brad. What she's been traveling with the team. We know that. What are you expecting from Camila tonight?
Coach said yesterday that she had practiced the last couple of days and was good to go. So we'll see how much she does play today. Obviously they'd like to get her, maybe shake some rust off before the SEC tournament next week. You got this game here, then you got at Tennessee, and that'll be one of the questions I asked Coach in our pregame interview. How much Camilla play tonight? What's her status after practicing the last couple of days? And we'll see where it goes from there. But obviously it's a nice shot in the arm, but it's also nice to see what the Gamecocks have been able to do without her. That they're able to, I don't want to say reinvent themselves, but find other ways to win. But obviously you'd love to have someone like that because of what she does on both ends of the floor, not only scoring but rebounding and blocking shots. That defensively just creates so many problems, because you have to alter your shot, or she causes people to alter their shots and not take good shots. So you love having that in there, and obviously you're going to want to have that. Especially today, you're going to want to have that, if she plays a lot against a team like Arkansas that's going to shoot a lot of threes, there's going to be a lot of rebounds to be had, because they're not going to pound the paint. So you'd love to have your big back in there, and you especially want her back in there against Tennessee in the regular season finale on Sunday.
Brad, I'm talking about the Arkansas game tonight. That's an interesting opponent. Not many teams in the SEC have a freshman that's averaging over 22 points a game and making a really good case to be SEC Freshman of the Year. What type of challenges does Talia Scott provide for this Gamecock team that might end up making this game more interesting than people might think?
Well, Talia Scott's a special player, and obviously when you're leading the SEC in scoring as a rookie, it's pretty impressive. I guess the big question is if you're going to see her tonight. She's actually been out the last 3 games due to some kind of family emergency. And from what I understand, at least something I saw yesterday with an interview with their coach, Mike Neighbors, I'm not sure I don't think she's going to be out there tonight. We'll wait and see, when we hit the floor. But she's been out with a family issue, and certainly, wish her the best with that. But without her, obviously that would be a big loss if she's not playing again here tonight. And of course, they would love to have her come tournament time because she instantly makes you that more dangerous. She's not very big, but she can shoot from everywhere. She's a volume shooter. She's going to take a lot of shots, but she's averaging better than 22 points per game. But without her, they still have what Arkansas has been under Mike Neighbors, and that's a lot of perimeter shooters. Samara Spencer is one, another guard. Michaela Daniels has been there, seems like forever. They do have a little bit of size. Miriam Dowd is a pretty good size post player at 6'4". I think the most interesting player to watch, other than Talia Scott, if Scott's not playing today, is Taylor Poffenbarger, who's transferred from UConn a couple of years ago. She averages a double-double. It's interesting because she's a big guard at 6'2". Arkansas is dead last in the SEC in rebounding, yet she, as an individual, is second in the league in rebounding, so she probably gets all of their rebounds. But she can shoot the 3 as well. She's in the top, as I said, second in rebounding. She's, I think, tied for 8th in 3-pointers made, and she's also in the top 10 in block shots. So I think Poffenbarger will be the most interesting player to watch for them because of what she can do on both ends of the floor as a guard, both defensively, rebounding, and of course, offensively. So to me, that'll be the one to watch.
Talking to Brad Muller ahead of Carolina at Arkansas tonight in women's basketball. Number 1 Gamecocks 27-0, 14-0 in conference play. And as Brad said, they'll close out the regular season Sunday here at home against the Tennessee Volunteers. Elijah and I talked about this on Monday's program, I guess it was, that we could tell, I think 3 of the 4 girls that came off the bench played more than 20 minutes. Certainly feels like Dawn is ramping up, like sort of the tournament legs. Brad, is that a fair way to put it when it comes to bench players seeing more time, or was maybe some of that a byproduct of the fact that, as we say in the South, bless their heart, Kentucky's not very good?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you obviously want to be able to play 9-10 people when you get to tournament play, so you can wear people down, and that's kind of what South Carolina has done most of this season. You kind of see the shoulders struck when the second unit comes in because you don't lose a lot in terms of production. But I think the neat thing is the more that if you want to call it second unit has played, the better they've gotten, where they've earned more minutes and they want to play more minutes, and it just makes them that much better because they're seeing the fruits of the labor. You always hear trust the process, and when your number's called, all those cliches, but they've lived up to that. Where when their number's been called, they've been good, and now their number's has been called a lot more, and they're getting a lot more minutes. So it's almost like a 50-50 split where, okay, you've got your first wave, but you've got a second wave. So, not being a starter doesn't mean you're not going to be a huge contributor, and you're really seeing that. And it's just neat that you have so many kids that have bought into that, where, on most nights, South Carolina is going to have 9 or 10. They're going to play significant minutes and make an impact.
There have been times this year, Brad, in conference play where they get the turnover bug a little bit, and maybe the offensive output isn't what we've seen at the beginning of the season when they were popping off 100-point games pretty regularly. But then, on the road against Kentucky, they score 103 points, and they knock down a lot of shots, and they look like what the ceiling of this whole team is. But I know Kentucky might not be the best team in the SEC. They've had a really tough year this year, but how much of that offensive explosion that we saw at Rupp Arena on Sunday is kind of replicable moving forward, and have they kind of found a lot more of the groove they had at the beginning of the season offensively right now?
Well, as we were watching that game unfold on Sunday, I kind of hope we could just stop the game, bottle it up, and start the postseason, because that's as good as you've seen South Carolina play all year. The way they shot over 60% from the floor, shot over 60% from 3, and shot better than 90% from the foul line. It was the perfect storm. So yeah, you kind of hope they found that second wind, and they'll probably get a little bit of time off after the game against Tennessee, since they don't have to play till Friday. They'll probably get a day or two off from practice to get their legs under them. And you hope you can get back to that thing where you're peaking at the right time. South Carolina had some really good peaks earlier this year, and that game against Kentucky was a shot in the arm, because even though South Carolina was winning, it was more of a struggle because the shooting percentage had gone down for about 2.5 weeks. Pretty consistently. As you're going to have those kind of highs and lows, but it was just great to see that basically as a team the shots were falling for everybody, and that was a lot of fun. So that's something I think kind of gave everybody a little bit of a shot in the arm, just a little shot of confidence to know, all right, we're back. We know we can snap out of any kind of offensive funk, and when we're on like we were against Kentucky, then it doesn't matter who you're playing.
Good stuff, Brad. Have a great call tonight. 8:30 airtime, 9 o'clock tip time, Carolina at Arkansas. Talk soon. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much. It'll be past my bedtime.
You'll be fine, sir. All right, line them up. Another chance to win tickets to the Battle at Bull Street. 803-404-6100. Going to throw some baseball trivia your way. 803-404-6100. Call us up. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Thursday. Happy Leap Day 2024. Don't get another one for 4 years.
So enjoy it, but don't get too crazy.
That's right. Don't leap anywhere that you can't land. It's good advice. I just made that up.
I'll put that on a T-shirt. We can sell that.
All right. Even though you've already called in, ignore that part about the calling in. But let's do this thing.
It's time to give away a pair of tickets to the Battle of Bull Street for Saturday. Call now at 803-404-6100 and test your Carolina baseball knowledge on the Postgame Show.
You know, I feel like now that we've had a couple of people that didn't win that got in, like an old postgame or like an old game show, we do need like a parting gift, right? You and I were joking the other day, like back when I was a little kid, like, if you didn't win on a game show, you got like a year's supply of rice-a-roni or some turtle wax.
Here's a year's supply of brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts.
That'd be great, man.
Underrated brown sugar cinnamon.
New flavor of Pop-Tart I tried the other day, banana bread. Try it.
Really?
Trust me.
It was good?
Yeah. I'm down.
I only need to know one thing, though, if I can trust your Pop-Tart opinion.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the strawberry?
Good.
Okay. I'm probably not going to like banana pudding.
Right.
The banana bread, then.
All right. Let's see what we can do here. All right, here's how it works. These are multiple choice questions. I have 3 answers that are possible. I have 3 players. Our first player is Mark. Our second player is Eric. And our third player is Mark. Man, Marks are popular today. That's weird.
Mark C for the last one, just so we can
Mark
differentiate.
C. Okay, yeah. So Mark C, you'll be third. Now, if Mark that's first, I'm going to call him Mark A because I can. Even if that's not his last name. I have no idea what his last name is. He can tell us later. If he gets it wrong, then we're going to go to Eric. If Eric gets it wrong, then we go to Mark C. And if Mark C gets it wrong, then we're going to rag on Mark C real bad because there's only 3 answers possible. So
this is a listening exercise as much as a trivia
exercise. Is how this works. So first, Mark, welcome on. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
You bet. All right. Now, don't be nervous. This shouldn't be too bad for you here, okay? Gamecock Baseball Trivia. And again, the prize up for grabs is a pair of tickets to Saturday's battle at Bull Street. We figured out which preposition to use. So that was good. Battle at Bull Street on Saturday at 4 o'clock. All right, Mark, here we go. How many times was Jackie Bradley Jr. named first team All Southeastern Conference? 1 time, 2 times, 0 times. How many times was Jackie Bradley Jr. named first team All SEC? 1, 2, 0. What do you got, Mark?
Jackie Bradley. 2 times?
That is incorrect. I am sorry, Mark. I am sorry, buddy. But, hey, thanks for playing. I wish I had some rice-a-roni for you, but I don't.
All right,
man. Have a good one. Okay, so we know which one is off the board. But I will ask the question again to Eric, who is up next.
Yes,
Eric,
sir.
how are you?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm good.
Again,
How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How many times was Jackie Bradley Jr. named first team All SEC? 1, 2, 0. Now, we know what Mark just said, so what do you think?
I got to say 1.
That is incorrect. I am sorry, Eric. I am very sorry, buddy. I am very sorry. All right. That brings us to Mark C., who I hope was paying attention.
I'm glad I'm going third.
Well, you should be. So, but I'll ask it again to be official. How many times was Jackie Bradley Jr. named first team All SEC? 1 time, 2 times, 0 times. Mark C., give me your answer.
That would be 0.
There you go. All right. There. Jackie was second team a couple of times, and he made the all-defensive team. And, of course, he was the MOP of the College World Series. But hard to believe, he was never a first-team All-SEC performer. So, Mark, congratulations. I feel badly for the other 2. That's tough, man. But that's the way this thing works. That's the way this thing works. It's all random. You call in, we put you on. So Elijah has all your info. Mark, we appreciate you listening. To the other Mark, thank you. And to Eric as well. And have fun
Thank
at the
you.
ball game. And take a poncho. It might be a little wet, so make sure you're prepared for all contingencies. All right, Mark?
Will do.
All
Thank
right,
you, Jay.
buddy. Appreciate you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Good stuff. All right. We will do this 2 more times tomorrow with more multiple choice Gamecock baseball trivia. I'm glad Mark C. was listening.
Hey, sometimes, you can get offensive rebound. You're right in front of the rim. So dunking it, it's still 2 points.
Just a putback, man.
That's right.
Just make sure it goes in the hole. Hour 3. We'll talk more basketball as the postgame show continues.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that are causing some delays on the roadways here in the Midlands. We'll start here in Richland County, an accident on Hardscrabble Road at Summit Parkway, causing some mild traffic backup. Got one in Lexington County over at I-20 westbound over at South Carolina 6, exit 55. The left lane was completely blocked on that one, but not anymore. Still moving pretty slowly, but not slowly as it was about 30 minutes or so ago. We have one at I-26 westbound over at Broad River Road, exit 97. That accident's been there for about an hour or so. And then in Richland County as well, we have an accident at Shop Road over near Atlas Road that's causing some delays. 2 more for you, one on Trenholm Road at Highway 16 near North Beltline Boulevard, and one on US 378 near North Lake Drive.
And it is headline time on this Thursday, Leap Day 2024. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the Postgame Show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. Had a lot of fun so far this afternoon, and we'll continue it, talking a lot of basketball, drive around the SEC still to come. We will start, though, with some local news around Gamecock football. If you have not yet heard, Shane Beamer has hired Mike Furry as his new wide receivers coach, and Coach Furry's contract has been approved by South Carolina's Board of Trustees. It's a 2-year deal, $425,000 per season. Coach Furry had most recently been the head coach at Limestone up in Gaffney. That's D2. He'd led them to first place, at least a tie for first place, I think, in the conference the last couple of seasons, into the D2 playoffs the last couple of years. He took over a program that had not been very successful. Mike spent 8 seasons in the National Football League, and he did it as an undrafted free agent. I think that tells you a lot about his work ethic and the things that he does to make himself better, and what he's been able to do to translate that to the guys he coaches. He also spent several seasons as the wide receivers, in fact, 4 seasons, I believe, as the wide receivers coach for the Chicago Bears from 2018 to 2021. Decided that he wanted to get into coaching at a head coaching level. The Limestone opportunity came up, and again, the 2 seasons he was there, he led him into the playoffs. He's also, as I said, he's spent a lot of time as a player in the NFL, and started his career at Ohio State as a player, was a walk-on, then went to Northern Iowa, where he became a 1AA or an FCS All-American. So a kid who worked hard back then. He's not a kid anymore, obviously, but it
would be impressive if he did all this as a kid.
But I mean, when you listen,
but not possible.
If you hang around the NFL, and I don't know how this, we'll see. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and go, hey, this is fantastic. Listen, the Coley hire was big. We've talked a bunch about all of this, and I know that there are some who have worn their, for lack of a better way to say it, their emotion on their sleeve when it came to the departure of Justin Stepp, because he's a local guy. Sean Elliott's a local guy, too. So if you want to look at a like-for-like replacement there, I wouldn't even say like-for-like. Sean's been a head coach. I think that's a bit of an upgrade. That's not a knock on Justin. But as I've said many, many times, it was obvious to the head coach and the offensive coordinator that they had to have more production out of the wide receivers. But they did like Justin a lot. They hired James Coley, who has a great reputation as a coach, teacher, and recruiter. Then Georgia came calling for James Coley, where he had spent several seasons earlier in his career, including a year as their offensive coordinator. Kirby Smart wanted him back. James Coley wanted to go. When the biggest program in the country calls you, you're going to take the gig. And now they've hired somebody who's got a good reputation from his NFL days and who clearly understands how crucial it is to be better at what you do, to not only get the opportunity, but to keep going. 8 years as an undrafted free agent in the National Football League. Tells you a lot about him. Mm-hmm. How much of that does he translate to others? Again, we'll see. But they seem very excited about this hire over in the football building, and he will be officially introduced tomorrow morning. Shane and Mike will have a press conference. I believe it's scheduled for 11 o'clock in the morning. So Mike Furry is the new wide receivers coach for South Carolina.
You're missing what I would say is my favorite accomplishment of his. Not even mentioned here. He is tied for an AFL, an Arena Football League record for touchdowns in a single season with 46 with the New York Dragons. So he got to play in the most fun football league on the planet.
Sure.
Arena Football, 50 yards of fun.
Basketball last night, South Carolina's men's basketball team took care of A&M in College Station, 70-68, a thrilling finish. Carolina did have another double-digit lead that they let slip away in the second half. In fact, A&M on 2 different occasions took a 3-point lead. They never got it past that. South Carolina, as late as about a minute and a half to go, had retaken its own 7-point lead, only to see the game get tied at 68. A brilliant piece of maneuvering by Michi Johnson after, Coach Paris said, let's go. And, again, I joked earlier. Well, not joking, but I had fun with it earlier. I was trying to find on the replay the exact moment where Michi realized, am I going to drive to the hole or am I going to pass? And as soon as he saw a defender collapse just enough right around the elbow, Michi knew, okay, I'll continue the drive. He goes about one more big stride, and then a beautiful around-the-back pass. And Zach Davis was just sitting there waiting for it for the easiest lay-in Zach will ever have in his entire life. Carolina took the lead, 3 seconds left. And then A&M just really screwed up the final sequence. I don't know any other way to put it. I mean, between the inbounds pass that you can't do that, and then they tried, I don't know, and then Taylor just tripped on his shoelaces or something, and the game was over.
It was about as clumsily as you could have done a last-second inbounds play.
And he had 3 seconds. I mean, I was like, they're going to get a nice shot here. Buzz will draw something. They'll get a nice shot.
You can inbound the ball at the opposing team's free throw line, still take about 2 dribbles.
Yeah, and shoot.
And get a 35, 36-footer at the horn.
Yeah.
And hilariously, they did not.
It was very comedic at the end. But
I will say that's Texas A&M season summed up in one.
It was kind of I was going to say, kind of a microcosm moment, perhaps. They have now lost 5 straight, have the Aggies. Carolina improves to 23-5, 11-4 in conference play. And we'll talk more about this game coming up in just a little bit. Plus, the EBPI already working overtime, looking ahead to the Florida game. I'll tell you what the actual, well, not the actual, I'll tell you what the ESPN BPI says, and then we'll see if it meshes with the EBPI.
Which has just completely taken a sledgehammer to the BPI in the last 2 South Carolina games.
I had somebody hit me last night and say, I can't figure this out at all. And they took a screenshot of the ESPN BPI, which gave A&M like a 72% chance last night.
That was your first mistake.
And so I responded to that person and said, well, the EBPI, that's the Elijah Basketball Percentage Index, gave Carolina closed at a 59% chance. So that was... You nailed it, man.
Yeah, that computer's working overtime.
Yeah. So there's that
it's
for
doing
you.
its thing. It's working. Always factual, never fictional.
Dawn Staley's team plays at Arkansas tonight, and we'll have some. We talked to Brad Muller in the last hour. We'll have some sound from Coach Dawn during the drive around the SEC. Speaking of women's basketball, as we continue our integrated media headlines of the day, Caitlin Clark has announced this afternoon that she will be entering the NBA or WNBA draft. Heck, maybe the NBA. I don't know. No, she's the WNBA draft.
That'd be ambitious.
She is, as you might expect, projected to be the #1 pick to go to the Indiana Fever and play with Leah Boston. Will they get along? I'm kidding.
We're going to have like a 1980 USA Hockey thing where their college interaction interferes with the practices they have in preparation for a season.
Now, Aaliyah is one of the nicest human beings on the planet.
Great color analyst.
And so even if she, she does, yeah. So even if she does have some kind of lingering resentment towards the Final Four loss, you'd probably never know it. But you know what? Aaliyah Boston down low and Caitlin Clark shooting from outside, and I hope the Indiana Fever will improve dramatically.
Well, if Caitlin ever does want to talk trash in a game and or in a practice, Aaliyah's got, all she has to do? Say, I have a banner that hangs up that says National Champion.
That's right.
I never got waxed in a national championship game.
Well, Caitlin hasn't hit this year's tournament, yet. So, I don't know.
I don't think it's happening.
I know. It is her and other players, right?
Allegedly.
Yeah. But
Caitlin Clark's.
But Caitlin Clark, now listen, she's become the face of women's college basketball as we speak, and she did have an opportunity to come back for a 5th year. And I wonder, I'm serious about this. I wonder if because she's, at least when, breaking records or hitting certain marks, there's a lot of talk about the numbers that she's hitting between the Woodard number and maybe, the Maravich number. Regardless, we know she's a fantastic player. But I wonder if she thinks to herself, either I'm just ready to go pro, or, boy, if I have a 5th year, they'll almost think that the records I've set don't count anymore. Like you could go too far with it.
Maybe.
Yeah. I doubt that's where it really entered in, but.
Maybe it helped that the Fever did win the lottery and that she could team up with Aaliyah Boston. And then there you go.
Yeah, maybe.
That's already a solid 1-2 punch.
Yeah. And it says in this article, by the way, Clark, expected to repeat as National Player of the Year this season.
Not really going out on a limb on that one, I'd say.
Yeah, she's going to be the National Player of the Year. But Caitlin Clark entering the WNBA draft. And finally, in our headlines today, this is interesting. And I'll, there's a lot in this, but we talked earlier in the show about the Big Ten and ESPN, and the SEC, along with ESPN's money, thinking,
that's
well,
a Freudian slip.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they do run things. Potentially breaking away from the NCAA. The Knight Commission. Many of you have probably heard of that. The Knight Commission on Intercollegiate Athletics has been around for decades. They don't have any official capacity, obviously, but they are a very public, well-minded, in my opinion, organization that continually looks at the landscape of college sports, how it can be better, how it can serve all of the needs that it purports to serve, and they do a good job. Their CEO currently is a woman named Amy Privet-Perko, and she has released a statement that says if ESPN's deal with the CFP does indeed get signed, which it has not yet been signed, by the way, and will pay them $1.3 billion per year, it will generate on its own more revenue than the NCAA generates. And she said this impending CFP deal must lead to new governance and management of the sport of FBS football and of the biggest pot of money in the history of college sports. Spending data provides overwhelming evidence that a new financial framework for managing the CFP's revenue is desperately needed. She also reiterated a recommendation from a couple of years ago that football should be basically separate, like completely separate from the NCAA, funded exclusively by CFP revenue, and include, quote, a single leadership structure to couple authority of revenue administration with authority over rules administration. I'm here for that. I'm absolutely here for that. And maybe this is part, Elijah, of what you and I were talking about in the last hour when it says a breakaway. Who wants to come with us? Or do you even need permission anymore to come? I mean, I don't think that Charlie Baker is going to hold you back. Now, by himself, he couldn't anyway, as the president of the NCAA. But we talked a lot about the haves and the have-nots. And as long as somebody gets at least a little piece of the pie, I imagine a lot of the have-nots will be like, all right, that's cool. And now we just kind of wait to see who wants to jump in this pool with the biggest schools in the country. Do the FAUs that have football, North Texas, Charlotte, I'm just throwing out examples, really want to go swimming with those guys on a regular basis, to stay with the analogy? I don't know. I was telling you today, I'm not picking on Charlotte, but Charlotte hadn't had a program that long. And in my personal opinion, and I know I'm not alone, Charlotte started football so they could go collect a few homecoming checks from big schools every year. They didn't need a football team.
The football team became a fundraising arm.
It feels like it. And I know that's an oversimplification, but it feels like it. Like, what do you expect to ever really happen? I mean, East Carolina has been trying hard, and that's a good football program. And you expect to go into a state like that and like all this. So I'm just giving you an example, but they're FBS, Charlotte. You can't play in these big leagues anymore. And I wonder how many of those schools like that will say, okay, and then either you don't maybe drop down to FCS, but find a way with some of those schools to form something else in between. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But I think Ms. Perko's right. You take that money, break away, do your thing for football, and then leave everything else the way it is.
Because you're going to want that basketball money.
Yeah. And you still want your conferences. I still want conference basketball. I love conference basketball. I don't care what conference it is. You and I were talking about watching A-10 basketball. I like that kind of stuff. Man, it's the best. It's great. It's great. Okay, so none of those dudes are going to the NBA, or maybe a couple of them here or there.
Don't care.
It's 40 minutes of fun basketball. I'm here for it. That's the headlines of the day, brought to you by our good friends at Integrated Media. Outdoor systems more affordable than ever. Get ahead of the curve here as the spring and summer weather approaches. Enjoy your ball games, your favorite teams, all under the skies of South Carolina's beautiful weather. 803-948-8327. Call my good friends at Integrated Media. Get yourself an outdoor system. More on Carolina Hoops as the postgame show continues. 19 minutes after 5 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. A few hours left in Leap Day 2024. Hope you're enjoying it. Chance Miller, Gamecock Associate Athletics Director, on tomorrow's program. We'll talk football. We'll talk United versus Liverpool. Some other things with Chance. Don't even know yet. We'll have chances tomorrow as well. See what I did there? To win tickets to care. Sometimes I don't mean to do those things, and I really didn't. Because it's just the word, like it is. Tomorrow you will have an opportunity. Is that better? 2 opportunities tomorrow to win tickets to Carolina baseball Saturday versus Clemson over at Segra Park, the battle at Bull Street.
Not underneath.
That's right. Gamecocks win last night, 70-68. Again, a good one. A lot of you liked it. And I said on Twitter, by the way, I want to get to this real fast. So last night I said I couldn't care less how ugly that was. The Gamecocks earned that road win through grit and determination. Really important for their SEC chances. All wins are good wins. Big one for Carolina. And a lot of people call it. I'm not surprised it was close, similar styles. Somebody else said must-win game. Somebody else said they didn't fold when it got tough. One guy said winning is pretty no matter how ugly, especially on the road. Yep. Bill, by the way, said, sorry, Jay, couldn't hear you over the sucking noise that comes from the officiating crew.
There are a couple questions.
Yeah, there were a few that were, I was like, man, you really? Okay. But one guy said to me, now follow this tweet, okay? It really wasn't ugly. There were spurts of sloppy and lackadaisical play that got compounded when the guys seemed to start pressing on offense and started throwing up threes without ball movement and a solid open look. Now, I didn't respond, but I wanted to go, so, yeah, ugly.
A little ugly. Yeah, it got ugly at times. The missed free throws, that's kind of ugly.
And
letting a 13-point lead dwindle away. Again, your second, that is yet another double-digit lead with 15 minutes to go in a basketball game that you have let diminish.
It's 3 times. That's a thing.
That
you won 2 of them. That's great.
That is a fair reason for concern. Yeah. Always celebrate the win. Don't ever take away from wins.
Here's what's interesting, though, Elijah.
It's something to monitor.
So there's 3 of them, right? Okay, in the first one, home against Ole Miss, Ole Miss never took the lead, and you won the game. But they turned 16 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
LSU turned 16 into a 1-point win. Last night, basically it was a 16-point swing for A&M. They turned a 13-point lead, deficit into a 3-point lead for them. And then Carolina retook a 7-point lead. So there's a lot of swings last night, but that is a thing. And in this case, again, A&M did turn it into a lead, but you did what you needed to do to win the basketball game. On that note, cut 6, please, Mr. Campbell. This is Coach Paris in postgame on just that, holding on the road.
Yeah, it was, honestly, and honestly, and honestly, and honestly, and honestly, and
It is, honestly. Hang on.
He was
computer
was dropping some bars there. That kind of sounded.
Computer mess up. We'll see if we can do that one again. You want to try another one first?
You know what? I vote we try this again, and if we have Lamont skipping over the beat again, then
it's like a remix.
I don't know what just happened there. I don't know how computers work, man. Let's try it again.
All right. Holding on to win last night.
All right. It's just now, just not
Doesn't
even
want to
playing.
play.
Yeah.
Well, there's live radio for
Have you ever been flipped off by a computer before?
Yes.
That has happened to me right now.
Yeah.
That is what this monitor is doing to me right now.
Is it you want to try another cut, or is it the whole thing?
My bet.
You want to try
as we are live diagnosing this computer issue.
It's going to be the computer?
I would say it's the whole thing, but you know what I'm not opposed to doing? Trying.
Give it a whirl. So this is the end sequence there. Again, 9 seconds left. A&M ties the game at 68. Talon Cooper had missed a free throw. A&M went down to tie the game. And rather than call a timeout after the ball was inbounded to Michi, Lamont said, let's go get him.
Big time play. He's unselfish. We got to 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 unselfish.
All right. Sorry, y'all.
No.
I tried. I thought it was going to work that time. It was a heck of a play. And again,
I thought it was going to work.
I've joked a couple of times already that I found that exact moment where I think in Michi's mind, because Michi did a great job. Those of you who have maybe watched it a couple of times like I did, I think I really did watch it like 4 or 5 times. I was like, where's the moment? right around the elbow, he realized, okay, this guy is collapsing, and now I'm going to pass. But he had already, you could tell, you could see him scanning the floor. He knew where Zach was.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may, this is like duh, but you get what I mean. Zach knew where Zach was. Like, all right, I'm good. And I don't know how much of this was drawn up relative to, just as it unfolds in the moment where you don't allow A&M to set up and maybe account for anybody. You just sort of,
which is like never call a timeout,
right? I you'll know what I mean here. Like playground rules kind of take over. Well, I'll just collapse on the man. And I think Michi understood that, And so, again, he gets to the elbow, and I think that by then he had made the decision, all right, I'm going to pass to Zach, but I got to continue to basically deke these guys. And so they didn't foul him, and that's when he made that beautiful wraparound pass. And, again, Zach was right there to just, again, like we said earlier, the easiest putback he'll ever have.
The best part of that, though, because if you think about it, when Michi draws the second defender, if you're the second defender and you see Michi looking at the cutter, and you read his eyes, and if Michi's thinking pass at that moment, instead of your arms going vertical to defend the shot, and you read Michi's eyes, your arms go, horizontally, and then you can just deflect the pass or go back up to maybe contest a shot. But the fact I think Michi maybe made up his mind he was passing it as soon as he got in the air, and the defender puts his arm straight up because then you can wrap around right there. The pass is a lot easier. Yeah. The lane's a little more clear. So, like, the precise, we're talking a matter of inches and milliseconds that you have to make this decision. It makes it even more impressive when you kind of put it in that perspective. But between Zach Davis making the cut at the right time and Michi waiting until the last possible second to get that pass off, it is a very impressive final sequence. And of course, coaches drill that in players all the time, but to see it play out that way is awesome.
Michi last night, 29 minutes, 22 points, had a block, a steal, 3 assists, 5 boards, was 5 of 7 from the stripe, 3 of 8 from 3, 7 of 14 overall. So a big night for him, led the team in scoring. In fact, I think he led the game in scoring, yeah. Mm-hmm. Zach Davis with 16 points in 34 minutes. He was 8 of 14 from the floor, 3 boards.
He might have taken like 6 dribbles all night.
Yeah, 3 boards, 2 assists. And then Talon Cooper just continues. Talon finally got going a little bit late offensively. He did not have a good offensive night. He missed his only free throw there late, which, again, boy, your point guard needs to make those. I get it. And he gets it, I assure you. But he made 2 big threes late. But Talon Cooper had 8 rebounds and 9 assists last night. And once again, South Carolina, 28 made buckets, 22 assists. And Talon had 9 of them. And he played 35 minutes last night. He just, again, the quiet leader that this team so desperately needed to get better. Michi is your energy guy. The way Zach and Colin are coming along. B.J. Mack last night, his presence was there. He didn't have a good night, but he was negated to some degree too. But, just overall, solid performance from your perimeter guys.
Man, when Talon Cooper catches a pass on the perimeter after it's been swung around from one wing to the other, and he shoots a 3 and there's less than 3 minutes to go in the game, you're more surprised if it misses. Because both of those came on swing passes after the ball moved around pretty well. When he catches it in rhythm, whether it's contested or not, I feel like that thing's got a great chance of going in, not just because he's shooting like 46% from 3, but he's very calculated with the threes that he actually takes. A lot of time they're in rhythm, and a lot of times it comes after 2 or 3 perimeter passes. Both of them last night did.
All right, quick timeout here. Drive around the SEC. We'll get the computer ready, I think. Let you hear from Dawn as well. That's the plan. A big win for Tennessee last night over the Auburn Tigers. And, again, we'll get the EBPI rolling ahead of Carolina, Florida. So we'll give you what the EBPI says and the BPI says.
Early prognosticators say you might not like the answer.
As the postgame show continues. With AAA Heating and Air, you're always ready to beat the seasons in South Carolina's Midlands. And if it's time for you to get your system checked out, maybe you hadn't done that in a while. I urge you to do that with the heat when it was getting cooler. Now it's starting to warm up again, or at least it will soon enough. 803-677-1500 is the number for AAA Heating and Air. Or if it's time for just a brand new system, you're like, oh yeah, maybe it is. What's that going to run me? Well, you log on to callAAAtoday.com. Punch in a few bits of information they need. They'll give you a free replacement estimate. And don't worry about the costs. With guaranteed financing option, comfort is always within your budget, especially with their new special 12 months, no payments or interest in 2024. Plus, Roy and Dana Finley give you a 15-year, you heard me right, 15-year parts and labor guarantee. Again, visit callAAAtoday.com to learn more. Tell them Jay Phillips sent you. Stay comfortable with my good friends at AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Center, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. In Lexington County, an accident's been reported in front of Walmart on Highway 6 near Highway 602 at Platte Springs Road. Traffic moving pretty slowly through there, as well as in Lexington County, an accident on Highway 6 at Bush River Road. So a couple of accidents at Highway 6 in Lexington. In Richland County, an accident's been reported I-20 eastbound over at Alpine Road, exit 76B. As well as one on Sharp Road at Wilson Boulevard, and one more accident in Lexington County, this one at Old Farm Road at Rawle Road.
And it is time for our drive around the SEC on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Again, we were talking in the last segment about Carolina's big win last night at College Station. South Carolina 70, A&M 68. Carolina has Florida coming up on Saturday. More on that one in just a bit. Also, last night, if my computer will help me, our computers are messing with us all of a sudden here today.
Something weird's going on.
Something's going on. I got it now, though. Let's see. You got Auburn at Tennessee last night. A heck of a game. This was coming down to the wire, or so it felt. And Tennessee just began to pull away. Dalton Knecht was absolutely amazing as Tennessee beat Auburn. Number 4 Vols 92, number 11 Tigers 84. And Elijah had the stat earlier. What was it? The final how many minutes Dalton Knecht outscored?
Yeah,
Auburn.
in the last 12:05, Dalton Knecht scored 25 points. Auburn scored 21.
That's amazing. And he scored 39 points overall for the game. And he did it in all kinds of ways. Knecht last night, 33 minutes, 10 of 12 free throws, 12 of 21 from the floor, including 5 of 8 from 3, 2 boards, 3 steals, 39 points. And as we joked earlier, Elijah said he locked up the SEC Player of the Year. I said, yeah, I think he already had it locked up, but now he's thrown the key into the Tennessee River.
Yeah, he did his best Kai Kroger impersonation and punted it.
Done.
As far as he could.
Done.
Can't find it.
Yeah. So there you go. 92-84, the final score in Knoxville last night. The Vols will be here next week. Is that Wednesday? Next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday, the 6th.
They're good. They're good. Florida did beat Missouri last night, 83-74. No surprise there. And Alabama last night, for a little while, Mississippi was giving them a game.
Mississippi had a lead.
Yeah.
Like they had about a 14-point lead in that first half.
They did. And then I think the halftime deficit was only 3 for Alabama. And then Bama ended up winning by 15 points.
Like any good magician, sometimes Alabama makes things disappear.
Yeah.
In this instance, it was a large first half lead.
Flanagan, the kid who decided to, go all WWE on Zach Davis the other night, did lead the Rebels with 28 points. And I think we had that kind of hinted to us the other day, didn't we? That the reason he didn't get suspended is because the SEC needs as many teams as possible. I think that was our good friend Derek Scott.
That was Derek's theory, yeah.
I don't know.
Led the team in points last night, but did not even lead his own team in elbows thrown above the head and neck area. That was Musa Cisse, who was issued a flagrant foul for his forcible contact with his elbow to the head and neck area of an Alabama player last night. They mixed it up a bit. Sometimes you got to have other guys step up when one player's lacking. So Flanagan didn't throw a bow, so Cisse did.
And Elijah tells me that the computer is cooperating with us now. We'll come back around because I want to get to this in the drive around with Dawn's team. So we'll let you hear from Coach Staley. Then we'll come back around to Coach Paris. Carolina at Arkansas tonight. It's at 9 o'clock. A&M is at Tennessee. Tennessee really needs this win if they have hopes of getting in the NCAAs. Again, I think they're on the outside looking in right now, right? So
Yep. Could be the first time ever.
That's remarkable. Mississippi is at Kentucky. Florida is at Alabama. Vandy travels to Missouri. Mississippi State will be at Auburn and LSU. The only other ranked team in SEC play right now will be at Georgia tonight. Dawn Staley, let's go to cut number 2, please, Elijah, on our list. This is Dawn Staley on how big wins, like they had against Kentucky the other day, can provide some confidence to her ball club.
As opposed to playing bad, I think it really helps us confidence-wise, both sides of the basketball, and then resting on Monday and then coming back. I mean, it helps us exhale a little bit and see really how we played prior to just having the heaviness of the season. Sometimes you can't get out of it. But this team found a way to get out of it on the court in a game and then come back and have 2 productive practice days.
Dawn was also asked in yesterday's media availability about fast starts. Carolina had taken a 25-8 first quarter lead against Kentucky on Sunday in Rupp Arena. Is that what she tells her team they need to go do?
I mean, it's something we emphasize every game. It just doesn't. They don't execute it as well as we want them to execute it. And I think, teams have something to do with that. And it was good for us to just impose our will on both sides of the basketball and just play well from start to finish.
And one more here from Coach Cut 4, Elijah. You asked this earlier. Now, again, Arkansas's leading player may not be available tonight. We shall see on that one. There's a family situation, he said, going on right now. And, you know, Talia Scott is her name. She's a freshman, probably the freshman of the year in the conference, at least one of the better players. She's averaging
22 a game.
22 a game
as a freshman.
But they take a lot of threes, does Arkansas. And so regardless, Coach Staley was asked about, you know, how they're going to look to defend that.
I mean, you can run them off the line all you want. They're going to take. They lead the nation in attempts, three-point attempts. So they're going to take them. We just have to make sure that we're not giving them open looks. Do we want to run them off? Yes, we do want to run them off, but running them off also may lead to, you know, uncontested layups. So we don't want that. I mean, I think the way that we've played them over the past couple of years has been great. Just our ability to we don't really control the three-point attempts. We control what looks they get and what looks they get at the rim.
So there you go. Carolina at Arkansas tonight. That's an 8:30 airtime here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, and 9 o'clock is the tip time. Carolina at Arkansas. Gamecocks close out the regular season Sunday afternoon here at home against Tennessee. That game, of course, will be here, and it'll be nationally televised. I want to come back around to the men's standings at this point in time, and Elijah and I had talked earlier in the week about the importance of trying to go get both of these road. Look, you want to win every game you play, obviously. That's not always feasible, but, you know, knowing that you had some places where you could make a difference, could you win both of those road games against Mississippi and Texas A&M? And the answer, of course, now is yes, you can, and yes, you did. So that puts Carolina in sole possession of third place in the Southeastern Conference as we speak. Tennessee and Alabama are atop the league at 12-3. Carolina alone at 11-4. Florida and Kentucky and Auburn are all at 10-5. Carolina owns the head-to-head over Kentucky, obviously, and someone is going to win the Carolina-Florida game on Saturday. That's a fact. Now, the BPI is basically giving Carolina a shade over a 50% chance to win this basketball game on Saturday. Just a shade. In fact, let me get to, I think it's 50.3%. Yeah, 50.3% in favor of South Carolina to 49.7% for Florida. Both teams are playing very, very well right now. Again, Carolina, let's see, Carolina's won 2 in a row, 3 of their last 5. Florida has won 2 in a row, 4 of their last 5 coming in. The EBPI is telling fans what here on Thursday?
Our first EBPI projection has Florida at 51%. Just a hair. When I look at these two teams and I look at what they do best, when I look at these matchups, I like to see what you do best, and can the other team stop you at what you do best. Florida is an average SEC defense, but they lead the entire country in keeping teams away from the rim at dunks, which South Carolina doesn't do well particularly anyway. Yeah. So not a huge deal. But the one thing that I'd be concerned with if I'm a Carolina fan is that Florida is the best in the SEC at defensive assist rate. Their opponents have less than 40% of their field goals come on assisted plays. South Carolina's top 15 in the country in assist rate. Florida plays gaps really well. When I watched the game last night, Missouri had a hard time moving the ball around the perimeter. A lot of their offense was predicated on straight line drives. A lot of teams, so when Florida plays you, they do a really good job of taking away those passing lanes. They anticipate really well. They're very aggressive. They're freakishly athletic. I would say Zion Pullen and Tyrese Samuel and Riley Kugel are 3 of the most athletic players in the conference in terms of speed, jumping ability, and just be able to pressure on the ball. Walter Clayton's really good on the ball defensively as well. They can take away passing lanes. I think that's going to give South Carolina a lot of trouble, but I still think this is really close to a toss-up. Slight edge to Florida right now.
We'll have more. That's okay. Maybe it changes by tomorrow.
It could.
I mean, the other day you talked yourself into like 2 more percentage points for Carolina.
It's fluid.
More from Lamont Paris on last night's win coming up. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show. We will lead you straight into Carolina Calls with Derek Scott and Coach Lamont Paris. Let you hear a little bit more from Lamont to kind of get you set up for the show here. First, Elijah will update us on today's poll question, which also revolves around Carolina basketball.
That's right. So now the poll question today, with the Gamecocks holding sole possession of third place in the SEC, with Florida, Tennessee, and Mississippi State left to play, where do you see them finishing in the SEC standings? Their options are first place, winning the whole shebang, second or third. Third option, fourth place, or outside the top four. And 54.9% say second or third place. Our second highest option at 23.9% says fourth place. 12% says they win the conference regular season, and 9.2% say they'll be outside the top four by the time tournament play rolls around.
Listen, you can still win if you. Well, look, there's certainly a path to winning this thing. I feel like Alabama's going to win it, though. I don't think Alabama's going to lose again. Now, Alabama goes to Florida next week, but you need to beat Florida first, certainly. And if you can sweep Tennessee, boy, I tell you what, at that point, you're not only playing for seeding, but then you're going to Starkville with a chance to win the conference probably, especially depending on what Florida and Alabama do, because they will play the night before you play Tennessee. So you'll have an idea of what you're looking at already. That feels tall. Like I said, look, that'd be some amazing icing on the cake or gravy on your mashed potatoes. You've got a real opportunity. You control your destiny, as it were, to finish in that top four and start your SEC tournament 2 weeks from tomorrow. And that's what you want. You don't want to play on Thursday. I mean, if you do, you do. But as you and I were just talking, if you start on Thursday, you're going to get one of those top four. You're going to have played, and the odds of you winning a game and advancing into the SEC tournament semifinal that makes it a lot more difficult. It really, really does. But there's an opportunity there for you. So, I mean, what, second or third was one of them, not fourth? Or
fourth place is its own voting option. Second/third is another. That was the most popular one.
Fourth.
It feels like fourth.
Yeah, it feels like it. And that's, again, look, they've been exceeding a level of expectation for a while here. There's no question about that. I did want y'all to hear this. So cut 7, we did get the computer going again, as y'all heard, because we had some dawn cuts. This was about a minute long here. Coach Paris, postgame with Derek on that final sequence with Meechie Johnson.
Big time play. He's unselfish. We got an unselfish group. I'm telling you, maybe somebody else is in contention for the least selfish group out there, but I know ours is in there. And so, yeah, to get in that moment, who doesn't want to hit a game winner? I want to hit a game winner. If you would have thrown it to me, I'd have shot it. But, to draw, he made an explosive move to the basket to get by his defender. It was really good change of pace and direction. Really good. And then the help came. And the wherewithal of Zach to find himself open at the basket versus open 14 feet away from the basket. I thought that was important. And then, obviously, it's like a drill we do. We call it lane lines. You drive down the lane line, you drop the ball to your partner, and he sticks it in. That's what happened.
Good stuff. You find your partner there. One more, too, real quick here. Do I have time for this one, Elijah? Yeah, I do. Okay, if you would, please, sir. Cut number 12. Again, a lot of you question the net rankings and all of that kind of stuff. And look, strength of schedule factors into that. And Carolina's non-con is still one of the lower ones for the top teams in the country. Eye test is certainly going to matter, but it was another quad 1 win last night. And here's Coach Paris talking about that.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, we've done a lot. These guys have done a lot. And, a lot of people have. But you look at some other teams that are doing this and that and the other, and we haven't had too many gaudy losses. I mean, maybe someone's going to say those two conference opponents at home in Georgia and LSU. But, aside from those, our guys have played. And our record away from home. That's where nobody plays at home in the NCAA tournament. As far as I know, but
you're 10-3 away from Colonial Life Arena this year. That's pretty special.
Yeah, that's awesome. These guys have done a great job. You get environments like this, and they just find a way. I
told Terry earlier at the end of the halftime show, Elijah. I don't see if you agree or not. Again, the net ranking is what it is. It's a tool amongst many that the selection committee will use, but that's why there are human beings in the room at the end of the day.
It's a sorting tool.
Yeah. The Carolina is getting an A+, plus they answered like the extra credit question when it comes to the eye test. They're passing. So the net ranking, okay. But I think the committee is going to go, well, you see what they're doing? There's a lot to like there. More from Coach Paris and Derek coming up in just a few minutes. Carolina calls down at Liberty. Chance Miller tomorrow. John Whittle previewing Carolina Clemson baseball. Enjoy the rest of your night and your leap day. See you tomorrow.